He's here to defend Austin Reaves. Of course he is. Dan Woike, LA Times, the Lakers, who had a very nice weekend. I liked it. I applaud it. I don't think competency is revolutionary. Let's get to the Austin Reaves thing. So,
yeah, they missed out on some names on their list, Colin. The Lakers were really into Kelly Olynyk, Mac McClung, Patrick Beverley.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
So, this is what happens in my space. I like Austin Reaves. I would have retained him. They got him for a good number.
Yep,
Very
good deal.
good.
It'll be one of the. He'll walk into training camp, as the starting shooting guard on one of the best contracts in the league.
Yeah, it's very good. And I also thought, I think you can get guys on good contracts. I mean, I know it's a backup player, but Gordon for the Suns is a really redeemable contract for a guy.
It's a great deal.
It's a great deal for Phoenix. Here's my thing on Austin Reaves, and I've said this you see this in football a lot. In football, if a lot of the guys that get drafted in the first round are like, they play 3 years in college. They don't redshirt. They're like 21 years old. They come into the NFL. They have high ceilings.
Yep.
So you draft them with a lot of it not being just production ceiling. But as you get fifth-year seniors out of Wisconsin, he is what he is. And by the way, he'll go fourth round, but he's valuable. Austin spent a lot of years in college, 2 years into the league. He's an older, experienced 25, more mature than a lot of kids that come out of college. And I like him. He's at 10 points a game. I think it'll get to 16.5, maybe 17, 3 assists. I like him a lot.
That's basically what he was when he moved into the starting lineup, right? He was about 16-4 on almost 50-40-90 shooting.
And I like that. But I think there's this sense that if LeBron and AD one of them got hurt.
Sure.
And he had to be your 2 in the playoffs. You're probably not in the West winning that series. Is that reasonable?
No, it is. But I mean, I think that's true for virtually any player making $20 million or less. That isn't, on a rookie contract like Victor Wembanyama or something down the road, right? Like, I think that is, that's basically true for most complimentary players, right? Like, I mean, you mentioned Tyrese Maxey earlier, and
so I like him a lot.
And maybe, but I think he's, probably a different class of prospect than Austin Reaves. But it's, I had a conversation with the scout, kind of, we were talking about contracts and stuff like that, and this was before. Austin wasn't able to get a restricted offer, which says more, I think, about restricted free agency than it does about how well he played.
Okay.
Because the Lakers could match anything.
That's right.
Normally, if you're going to get a player in restricted free agency, you have to overpay.
Right.
And there wasn't really an overpay available.
I don't think he's an overpay guy.
Yeah.
I think he is, and I'll say
even at the $100 million for 100, I think most people around the NBA would have viewed that as a reasonable match. Like for a starting shooting guard at age 25. In year 2, like certainly getting ready who's shown improvement at every step along the way, right? Like, so there are some questions I think about like what his ceiling is, but I can tell you that even internally within the Lakers, that ceiling went up this year as to what they thought he could be when they saw him move into the starting line, because we did see him without LeBron James for a pretty good chunk of games in the second half of the season when LeBron was out with the foot injury. It was D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reaves, Anthony Davis, Rui Hachimura, like really not even Rui Hachimura at that time. Those were the 3 guys that were kind of leading the charge. And we saw games where Austin had, 30 points, got to the free throw line 15, 16 times. So I think though, but I was talking to, I digress. I was talking to the scout and I'd asked him, about Desmond Bane, who was taken 30th. I believe, or 29th in the first round of the draft.
It was a 0-star recruit.
Yeah, and just got a $200 million extension.
Yeah.
And I think this scout said that Desmond Bane he viewed as a better player than Austin Reaves.
I do.
But it was closer than most people would think. And if it's funny because those 2 guys were matched up in the first round of the playoffs. And I would say Austin got the better of him the first 3 or 4 games. Bane kind of wore him down a little bit over the course of the series because they were running Austin through Dylan Brooks and different stuff.
But Bane got paid to some degree. Sometimes you get paid not for your talent. There's a reason they brought Marcus Smart in. Bane is a grown-up. He's a grinder.
He's really good, too.
Yeah, no, he is.
Yeah.
But he is viewed as in an unstable, excuse me.
Sure.
Marcus and Bane, no problems.
Yeah.
They're viewed, I think they've gone out and looked for, is Derrick Rose even on that team? Did they make a run
they
at him?
did. Yeah. No, as someone I think as a mentor
so
and stuff.
Essentially, guys now are getting paid in Memphis, sort of,
sure,
to get this thing under control. That's okay. I totally buy that.
Yeah.
But I can like players. Like I thought the 2 guys you had to retain were Reaves and Rui.
Yep, 100%.
And I thought Pat Riley lets Gabe Vincent go, but he's a shooter, and if you play with LeBron, you get shots. I'm okay always overpaying for a young shooter. Again, undrafted. I think he's undrafted. Great story, hard worker, typical Heat culture kid. Like you got
couldn't even get on a summer league roster. I mean, that's the climb that Gabe Vincent has been on.
By the way, there's a lot more of that in the league than anybody wants to admit.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the start of free agency, you look at Fred VanVleet, Draymond Green, Austin Reaves, Desmond Bane. I mean, these are guys that are non-lottery players. Certainly, and we're seeing a ton of lottery extensions go out around the league right now, and that's fine. That is the straightest line path to being great in the NBA. That'd be the advice I'd give any kid out there who wants to be a good basketball player. You want to be a good NBA player? Get drafted first. That's that's the best path. The higher you are in the draft, generally speaking, the more chance you have to attain success.
That's right.
But I mean, Nikola Jokic. I mean, there are different pathways, especially as the game changes and the court gets more open. There's more skill involved and stuff like that. I think there are, I mean, that's one of the things with Austin Reaves, I think that the Lakers are betting on is that, his ceiling isn't maybe just nice story. I think he surpassed nice underdog story. I mean, he is going to play for Team USA this summer, and it's not the Team USA type of class that you would look at and be like, oh my gosh, this is loaded with stars. But I mean, it's a group that has like Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, and stuff like that. And I think he's one of the best guards in the NBA under the age of 25, 26. He's a good, really good young player, and that's why the Lakers prioritized him. And it's really why they suppressed his market and restricted free agency by telling everybody, we will match anything. And so you can offer him $100 million, but it's a waste of your time.
All right, let's go to I do think it's interesting that people hate small markets get worked up about mobility, but it's not like small market Milwaukee didn't go out and get this guy and this guy and this guy and Drew Holiday. Mobility's everywhere. Portland, by the way, is going to make a big move for Dame, and they're going to bring all sorts of people in, and they went and got a Jeremy Grant. Everybody's getting somebody. Like this idea that everybody wants to go play for the Knicks. They've missed on so many free agents through the years. Give me a break.
Look at the Chicago Bulls free agency history for a place that supposedly would attract free agents.
So in the end, Phoenix, it's a winter league. It's warm weather. That's always been kind of attractive. I've had players say that.
Sleeping giant, really, in a lot of ways.
But I look at this team, and here's what I really like about it. Gordon, they stole off the bench. They also went and got a stretch four and some size. I do worry about Ayton being the fourth option and being pouty and disengaged. But they do have enough duplication, Dan Woike joining us for our radio audience, LA Times, that you could give. You could go to KD and say, I want 52 regular season, Beal 62, Booker 68.
Sure.
And that means Ayton is your third option on most nights, and sometimes down the floor is second. Because I do think it's a bit problematic. Ayton has shown the ability to pout. And if you're the fourth option, he's not getting that ball. They have so much duplication, even counting Gordon with shooters. You can really juggle this lineup, Dan, and give one of them a night off during the regular season.
Yeah.
And still be, if you told me KD missed a series, I think you could win a playoff series with this. I think it's got that much offense.
I think it's hard to do that way. And I think that's one of those approaches that when teams build these 3-star lineups, like that is like a common thought, right? But I think organically, like Colin, those nights are going to happen, right? Like Devin Booker's going to pull a hamstring and he's going to miss 2 weeks. Like that is going to happen. History has shown us that Bradley Beal will probably be hurt at some point. Like that is part of the deal. Same with Kevin Durant, right? Like he'll have a sore knee or something or an ankle. And so that you hope that the luck lines up in a way where you'll be able to do it. But you're right. Like they are top heavy enough seemingly that they should be able to navigate that. And I think, I was talking to an executive who thought that they did about as good as they could do with the constrictions that they had based on this trade.
It's kind of a decent bench.
And then you look at some of these guys, and they might not be names that people really know. Like it's hard to get super excited unless you really follow basketball. But like Yuta Watanabe, right?
Stretch
who
four.
Who went a huge chunk of the season without missing. He was just like one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. Bates Diop from San Antonio was a guy who shot 38% as a really versatile defender. I think a guy that Frank Vogel is going to love playing. Like that just seems like Frank Vogel's kind of player, and they did pretty good. It's hard though, but and it's one of those things. Like you think back to the teams that have had the most success, with 3 stars, and obviously you think about the Miami Heat, And yes, they had LeBron James. Yes, they had Chris Bosh. Yes, they had Dwayne Wade. But huge parts of those championship runs were the fact that Mario Chalmers was the right player for the right situation.
Right. Also,
that Shane Battier and Mike Miller were really good free agency signings. Ray Allen eventually, really good free agency signings. So when you do have these spots, you just can't miss. You have to use you have to use the avenues you have. And right now they are selling to free agents like Eric Gordon and those other guys opportunity to play, opportunities to win. And they've done pretty well.
If you look at the team that didn't work thrown together, they had a first-year coach, Steve Nash.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones, Boston, Doc Rivers, Eric Spoelstra, Steve Kerr, Frank Vogel. It does help. It's fluid. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of personality.
I mean, Frank, and in fairness, Frank struggled with it in L.A., 2 years ago with Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, but that's fit and stuff like that. And this is a smoother fit. I think Devin Booker can play on the ball a little bit more and is a pretty good passer. I think certainly the ball skills for Kevin Durant are outrageous. Like, that guy can do everything. But I think that there's something to that. I do think it might be a right coach, right time situation in Phoenix. And it's going to be hard. You're going to have depth issues. But you have 82 games to kind of settle on, the 8 guys that you trust. And, come playoffs, I generally think in the playoffs, the way their roster's built, like those 3 guys are going to have to stay healthy.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard. Otherwise, we saw that with Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You lose 1, you lose 2. Next thing you know, you're out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I do kind of believe in the fact that they've got enough time and they've got enough talent to find the right pieces that fit. Because, yes, the Suns are really, in a lot of ways, a microcosm of the NBA. You have those super top-tier talented players. And then everybody else in the league, it's about situation and opportunity.
Yeah.
And you get in the right situation, you get the right opportunity, you get a chance to shine. Someone else's trash is your treasure. And I think the Suns team is a really good opportunity to show that.
So the Heat are a lot of things. They're not covert on their messaging. It's pretty clear what they're doing. Strus, see ya. Mm-hmm. Gabe, bye. They can move off other pieces.
Oladipo.
Yeah, Victor Oladipo. That's right. So it's like they're clearing up space.
Yep.
For Dame, I think he fits because I think Dame, the market's interesting. I compared him to a convertible sports car. It works in Miami in warm weather. It's useless in Anchorage. Is that he has to be surrounded by length and defenders.
Sure.
Bam and Butler are. So you can get away with it. He works, he would work in Milwaukee where you have a rim protector, Drew Holiday. But he's not a defender. He's small and a bit injury prone. But Miami's the fit. Bam, Butler, Dame that sounds like a title team. The question becomes fairly obvious. What do they give Portland?
Yeah, I think that is what I'm so interested in, and I'm sure, people like our friend Bill Orman at the Oregonian and are talking about this, where it does sort of feel like either you placate Dame or you go get the best offer, right? Like those are the pathways. And ideally, if you're, Joe Cronin, they're two separate questions. Hopefully Miami isn't the best offer, because it should feel like you should be able to get more if it is a 1-for-1 trade than Tyler Hero, who doesn't really fit your timeline.
It doesn't.
And picks. Like, you can get some draft picks and some swaps and stuff like that. I think certainly if the Brooklyn Nets are as interested as reportedly, I think they have an offer.
Like what? Like Bridges?
No, it's not a win now situation, Colin. It's a pick situation. Is that you take on the draft picks that the Nets got back from Phoenix. You take on the draft picks that the Nets got, and the Philly deal for Harden. Maybe you house Ben Simmons for a year in Portland. You are kicking the ball down the road. Like, this is they're
not a championship
This
team
is an
now.
extended rebuild at this point. And that's why some people were kind of curious about the Jeremy Grant deal. I had one scout, I was on the phone with him actually when Damian Lillard requested the trade. And I said, whoa, the Grant deal looks a little different now. He said, he joked that it was like an airline ticket where you get 24 hours after you book it to kind of, you can pull back. But, Jeremy Grant will have value regardless of what they do, because he's a pro.
Yeah.
And you don't want to give Scoot Henderson just like nothing around him. You want to develop him and stuff like that.
Nurkic is a player.
See, I think if I was trading Dame, I'd try to trade Nurkic in that deal too. I'd try to get off the Nurkic money and use your opportunities to do that.
So then you need 3 teams. You need a third team.
Maybe. It's hard to get to $60 million with Miami. You could take back Duncan Robinson. You could take back, you could take back Martin. You can take back different players like that, and maybe you pawn them off down the road. I just think that if you're Portland, the question is you've shown loyalty to Damian Lillard time and time again, and he's shown loyalty to you. It's been a good relationship. This is like not a messy breakup by any stretch. I think it is now. I feel like Portland has done enough, right? And now they can take Damian Lillard to the open market, and he's a player that's under contract, and they should open it to all bidders. Who wants him? Is it just the Heat? Would San Antonio be interested in kind of building their culture ground up? Like, that's a name that's been mentioned. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Brooklyn certainly is a team that could put together Damian Lillard, Mikal Bridges, Nick Claxton, Cam Johnson. Like, it's a pretty good core in the East. It's young, it's upcoming. Like I think those are. I think you need to explore all your options. You shouldn't just be on the phone with Pat Riley.
My takeaway is if Dame, and this is okay, in the NFL, there's always, we like to pretend that everybody's got a chance to win.
Yep.
But in college football, I can tell you right now, USC, Michigan, LSU, Bama, Georgia.
Yeah.
Ohio State.
You probably look at the SEC, you probably look at like two teams in the Big Ten, and be like, okay, it's probably coming from one of these teams.
And in the NFL, we think it's a wide open bubble. It's about 6 teams.
Sure.
If Dame went to Miami.
They're one of the teams.
Well, and it's a pretty small list.
Mm-hmm.
Denver, Phoenix, Milwaukee, then Miami. I think Boston,
I'm there with Boston.
They don't have a point guard still, but it's but okay, well, let's put Boston in.
Sure. They're in that mix.
I don't think Denver, Boston, Phoenix, Milwaukee, Miami. If Philly doesn't get Dame, I don't put him in there. I'm fool's gold.
If they're moving off of Harden, especially in that situation, I think
it's a pretty small list of championship teams.
I think right now, as of today, some people would have the Lakers in that list, just in the conference finals. Had a good offseason. We'll see what happens to how healthy they were. But, it's not a lot. I think you have although there is a feeling in Denver, we'll see. But you do talk to people, and it does feel like this is the dawn of parity in the NBA right now, that you look around and you see
like the 70s.
Like the Warriors are a crumbling dynasty in some ways. They're getting older and stuff like that.
By the way, were you surprised they did not go get another big?
I don't know. I don't really think I think Looney's pretty much like kind of what they do. And Draymond is functionally the big and stuff. I was a little surprised that they went Chris Paul and Corey Joseph. I didn't think we'd be talking about Corey Joseph today, but that to me seemed like if you have X amount of minimum slots, that was a little bit of a surprise. But I think you want, especially with Chris Paul, they're going to spread the floor. They're going to run a ton of pick and roll. They're going to use Klay Thompson as a screener a bunch. They're going to use Draymond Green as a screener a bunch. They're going to get into space.
Hopefully.
Kuminga.
Now
and that's the other thing, Colin, is you need those guys for this to work. You need Kuminga. You need Moses Moody. They have to play. You have to create those pathways for those guys. But I do think you can look around and you can make arguments for 6 or 7 teams, based on last. I think we could look at, it's not hard to squint and see a version where John Morant comes back focused and Memphis is the team that they were for the first 50 games last year. I think they were one of the best teams in the West. I think, Marcus Smart in that mix is really interesting. I think Minnesota in year 2 of Towns and Gobert will be better, and they could certainly get better through trade too. So it's pretty loaded right now. So I think teams are operating in a way where it's like you look at the situation, you say we need to go for it.
Yeah. Dan Woike, LA Times. We both like Austin Reaves. I like Austin Reaves.
I know. I'm
teasing. All right. Good seeing you guys.
I like Mac McClung better though.
Well, in the dunk contest.
I would bet on Mac McClung.
Sometimes you have to poke the audience. I was poking the audience. I acknowledge it. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.